It's Tuesday night. Yay! It's Training Tuesday. And welcome to Training Tuesday. Tonight we're talking about overwhelm and what it feels like when we are in utter overwhelm and how do we move out of this place, right? How do we move out of this spot where it feels like the entire world is kind of crushing down on us and we're stuck? We can't move, we don't know what to do, and we're frozen. We're kind of paralyzed. So it's not exactly a lighthearted topic tonight, but I think it's one that a lot of us can relate to. And I think especially with 2020, with COVID-19 kind of forcing us into almost this smaller environment where everything really was crushing in on us, but crushing in on us also in all the same room, it became very overwhelming, right? And our entire lifestyles changed, and work changed, and home life changed, and homeschooling was now a thing that everybody had to do. And so, overwhelm is a probably an overused word even for 2020. And now we're in 2021, and COVID is still happening. And it's something we still experience. We experienced it before COVID, we're experiencing it now. And what I want to talk about tonight is not the overwhelm of like the everyday stress, but the overwhelm of like the big stuff, the big rocks in our lives that suddenly are, like I said, just kind of crushing in on us. So we'll get to that. Welcome to Training Tuesday. My name is Natalie Hahn, and for those of you joining me tonight who have not joined before, welcome. I am Natalie Hahn, CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting. You are here in Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women, a group that is a private Facebook group for women only. We focus every Tuesday night on topics relating to leadership and confidence and just stepping out and using our voice. And being a leader is not about the title you have. It's not about working in a corporation, because you are the leader. You are the CEO, if you want to look at it that way, of your life, of your work, of yourself. So when I talk about leadership, I talk about leadership from all those angles. It's not just about having a certain title in a certain company or on a particular career ladder. So welcome. And as I said, tonight's topic is on overwhelm. Now, I'm not talking about the everyday overwhelm, right? The everyday overwhelm is I have a to-do list of 15 things and I'm going crazy running around trying to get them all done. But I know that if I can just get to my yoga class at the end of the day, or if I get a run in first thing in the morning, or I spend 10 minutes meditating, I can give myself enough sort of mental space to get through it all, right? To get through that okay. And that's your typical kind of daily stress. And we have a lot of good sort of daily tactics that help us manage that, right? That help us get through that. The kind of overwhelm I want to talk about is the one where 10 minutes of meditation isn't enough. So there was point, and oh, by the way, hi. Say hello in the chat. I tell you guys this every week that sometimes I can and sometimes I can't see what's actually happening in the chat. I always try to, I have a second screen over here, so I'm always trying to figure out, like, can I get it to pop up so I can see who's here? So say hello. It's nice. I see Paula's here. It's nice to see you, Paula. If I can't see the chat and you type something, I apologize. I will absolutely follow up afterwards and make sure that we connect. But Joe, go ahead and jump in if you have questions, if you have comments to anything. Hey, Lisa, if you have comments to anything that I'm saying, jump in. As much as we can with a Facebook Live, we'll make it a dialogue. So the kind of overwhelm I'm talking about tonight is I can remember a time where I was absolutely paralyzed in terms of not knowing what to do, not knowing what the next right step was going to be. Now, for everybody, I think it shows up a little bit differently, right? Hi, Marilyn. The stress shows up a little bit differently. For me, I couldn't sleep. Now, I am normally a really good sleeper. Like, I go to bed early. I'm an early to bed, early to rise girl, and going to bed early and falling asleep has never been a problem for me, except when I reach this point of feeling overwhelmed. When I'm at this point of overwhelm, two things happen. Hey, Christine. Two things happen. One is I can't sleep. And then when I can't sleep, I'm cranky and groggy, and I've never heard of a potato chip I didn't like. Like, my eating habits just go to the trash can when I'm in this state. But it starts with lack of sleep, and then it moves to really bad eating habits. And all of that fuels just a really bad mood, which does not help the inability to sleep. So at this point in my life, I was doing everything I could to make myself tired. So I was doing yoga and Pilates every day. I was running almost every day. I was working and I was taking care of 3 kids. So I was just busy with life in general. And at night, I was drinking valerian root to try to help me sleep. So valerian root's an herb, and if you've not tried it, it smells terrible. So, and it tastes pretty bitter. I got used to it, but the kids used to refer to it as, oh, you're drinking your stinky tea, and they would literally leave the room, which wasn't such a bad thing. But I was trying to do everything I could to make myself relax so I could sleep. The problem with that, when you have the big rocks, right? The big boulders, the big stressful things that are in front of you, and those are the things that are actually stressing you out. The problem is there's no amount of making yourself physically exhausted through exercise or taking herbal supplements. There's no amount of that that's actually going to help you release the overwhelm, because it isn't your problem. My problem wasn't that I wasn't tired enough. My problem wasn't that I needed to meditate more. My problem was that I had these big rocks in front of me and I wasn't dealing with them. I wasn't looking at them. What keeps us paralyzed in overwhelm and fear is, or what keeps us paralyzed in overwhelm is fear. It's the fear of what's going to happen if. I have these big things in front of me that I have to deal with. I feel like I have to deal with them all at the same time. I don't even know where to look first. None of them are fun. I really don't want to deal with any of them. And so what happens is we bury our head in the sand and we don't look at any of them. And then we carry this constant anxiety and stress with us. And in carrying this anxiety and stress, for some of you, it may show up in physical illness, right? Nausea or throwing up or migraines. It may show up in mood swings, right? For me, it was, like I said, it was lack of sleep. But there's all kinds of both physical, mental, and emotional ways that stress and overwhelm show up. But the number one thing that it has in common, regardless of what our symptoms are, is overwhelm is a state of paralysis. We're not looking at the big rocks. So the first thing we have to do when we're in this state of there's too much of life being thrown at me and I don't even know where to go. If you want to meditate for 10 minutes, do that. If you want to go for a run, do that. If that helps you kind of clear yourself a little bit, that's fine. But truthfully, the only thing that's going to move you is to sit down and decide you're going to face the fear. Take a deep breath and say, okay, it's time to actually look at this. And you start with a list. Looking at what's actually overwhelming you, you start with a list. The minute you start making overwhelm tactical, once it's tactical, it becomes something that you can actually chip away at bit by bit. But you don't want to just make a list and then start going through it, because that's actually not going to help your overwhelm. First, make the list. What are the big rocks that are in your way? What are the tasks or the elements under those big rocks that you have to do in order to move it forward, in order to move the rock out of your path? So make the list of 10 things, 20 things, 30 things, whatever it is that's creating the boulders that are blocking you. Make that list. Now, once you've made that list, you're still going to look at it and go, holy cow, no wonder I'm stressed. No wonder there's too much here. No human being can possibly do all of these things. And yet, it seems like everybody is demanding all of these things from me. Because what's going to be on your list? What's going to be on your list are things that your boss wants you to do, that your coworkers are expecting from you, that your partner wants from you, that your kids are looking for, that your mother's looking for, that you yourself want to do. That's why this list is so long. There's an awful lot of demands on us, and they all claim priority. The thing with priority is, if you're going to make something a priority, it means something else isn't. When you're looking at this list, and let's just say for fun, there's 30 things on this list. You've got maybe 5 or 6 big boulders that are overwhelming you, and each big boulder has 5 or 6 things underneath it, right? You've got to prioritize. It starts with prioritizing the big boulders. Prioritizing means you have to be ready to make the hard decisions of what's actually important to you, what's actually going to make a difference in your life. So there's a couple things I want you to think about with prioritizing, because we get stuck on prioritizing because everything's important. Everybody else thinks their things are important that we somehow feel stuck doing. So when you prioritize, the first question you ask yourself is, which one of these big boulders aligns with what I want in my life? Like, literally ask the big question. And I get that some of the things under here are going to be very tactical things, like who's picking up the kids after soccer on Tuesdays. Some kids are still going to soccer. Who's cooking dinner on Wednesday night? Weekend plans, right? Some of these things are going to be very tactical, but they're going to fall in these big boulder buckets of a program at work, or just your career itself, or kids, or partner, or parents, right? They're going to fall into these big boulders that over there. So create the list, look at your boulders first, and prioritize. And then once you've looked at the boulders, prioritize underneath them. But the first question when you are prioritizing is, what aligns with what I want to create in my life? The whole mission that we have at Dirty Girls is helping every woman create a vision for a life that she's going to love, and then making a plan and working the plan to get to that vision. If what's falling under these boulders, if what's either a boulder or what's falling under the boulders isn't aligning to this plan you have for yourself, it's not a priority. It doesn't matter how important it is to anybody else. If it doesn't fit in your vision of what you want for yourself, it's not a priority. And this is why I say we have to make hard choices when we prioritize, because you're going to look at something, you're going to go, oh, but if I take that off my list, my mother's going to hate me, or my sister will never talk to me, or my boss will be mad and I won't get that promotion. But prioritizing is about choosing something over something else. And I'm asking you to choose, what's the life you want? What does that look like? So when you look at your overwhelm list, look at it in terms of which ones of these boulders help me move closer to the life I love. So let's just say you have a work boulder, and you have a couple projects under your work boulder that are overwhelming you. You've got some deadlines you've got to hit. Well, the work boulder may very well be a priority because there's a promotion you want to get. There's a raise you're aiming for. There's just a new career path you're trying to move into. Okay, that boulder is one of your priorities. Family may still be one of your priorities. Self should always be one of your priorities. Look at the lists under there. When you look at the lists under each of those boulders, which one of those tactical pieces that is part of your overwhelm, which one of those tactical pieces actually moves you closer to that promotion? Which one moves you closer to that promotion versus which ones are just busy work that your coworkers asked you to do, or somebody's looking for a favor, or you thought would be a good idea because it might help leave a good impression with somebody somewhere? There's an awful lot of things we do that are not priorities, but we think they are, or we make them that way because of the impact it might have. Narrow this down to what actually aligns with your long-term goals. Now there's more, because you're in overwhelm, and when you're in overwhelm, it's hard to think, and it's hard to think clearly. So the first thing is create your buckets and create your lists within those buckets and figure out what's truly the priority buckets. Then you're going to look at each task and you're going to apply, I call it the 5-5-5 rule. Other people call it the 10-10-10 rule. It doesn't actually matter what number you use. Pick anything between 5 and 10. But the point is, for every task that you've put on your list, The question is, how much does this task matter 5 minutes? How much will it matter in 5 months? And how much will it matter in 5 years? You could do the same with 10. 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. The point is that we often focus so much on what we think is the priority in the now. What's the 5-minute I have to get this done now. I have to get this done now. So-and-so's expecting this. Somebody wants this done. Everything has to get done now. But if you think about how important is this 5 months from now, maybe not at all. How much is it 5 years from now? 5 years from now, you won't even remember this was a thing. If that's the case, how important is that task really when what we're talking about is you focusing your energy on building a life that you love? How important is it? 5 minutes? It's not a lot of time. But if you're focused, you can actually get a lot done in 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years. Take the classic, this is the way I think a lot of examples a lot of coaches give when they talk about the 10-10-10 rule or the 5-5-5 rule, right? So you have a choice to sit and work for 5 more minutes, or you have a child pulling at your shirt saying, come play Monopoly. And you say, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, when I'm done, I'm almost done. So the question to ask in that moment is, does this email actually have to be responded to in the next 5 minutes? If I respond to this email in the next 5 minutes, will that matter 5 months from now? Will that matter 5 years from now? Or can this email wait till tomorrow? Because the flip side of that is, if I don't go play Monopoly with my kid in the next 5 minutes, what's my kid going to remember 5 minutes from now, 5 months from now, and 5 years from now? Trust me, your kid has a way longer memory than anybody who's receiving one of your emails, right? We think about the impact. The 5-5-5 rule is all about impact. What is the impact we are having in the moment? What is the impact we're having in 5 months? What is the impact we're having in 5 years? And the point of looking at the 5-month and the 5-year impact is because those are the actions that build towards the life you want. If you are constantly making decisions in the now, constantly making those 5-minute decisions, you're never getting out of your now. The present moment is going to be your constant, because you're never actually looking ahead and saying, no, I have to choose that vision over what's happening today. So first, you prioritize your tasks and your boulders according to your values, and then you look at the tasks according to the 5-5-5 rule. What's important in 5 minutes? What's important in 5 months? What's important in 5 years? And you figure out, if you have a vision for 5 months and 5 years from now, you have to change the choices you're making in the 5 minutes. Final thing, if you're still stuck, like if you've done the 5-5-5 and you're still feeling like there's too much to tackle, or you can't prioritize or organize it in a way that you can chunk it and take those tactical steps in bites, then the last question to ask yourself is, which of these tasks align with how I want to show up in the world, with who I want to be? Which of these tasks align with my values? Who is the person I want to be in this world? Do I want to be that go-getter, hardworking, known for putting all these hours in, and really aggressive going after my career person? Which is a totally valid persona to go after, right? I want to be that person who's aggressive and totally focused on her career and climbing the corporate ladder. Okay, then you're going to make decisions that are very much centered around your career. Are your values more aligned to, I want to be that laid back person who spends a bunch of time walking her dog and hanging out at the lake and working in her garden, and my career supports my lifestyle? That's a very different persona. You're going to make different choices then in your 5 minutes. That's going to help support the balance you're looking for, right? The balance you're looking for to spend time gardening and hanging out with your dog, rather than climbing up the corporate ladder. So what are the values? Who is it you want to be in this world? When you start looking at overwhelm, the big picture. And then you break it down into, here are the boulders that are creating my overwhelm. Here are the tasks underneath each of those boulders that are contributing to my overwhelm. But here's how I can prioritize them because of the life that I want to build for me, because of my priorities and my goals. You first have to be ready to disappoint people. A lot of things on your list are not your priorities. They're somebody else's. So first, you have to be ready to make the hard decisions, to disappoint people in favor of your vision for what your life should be. And then you have to be ready to let them go. You've got to be ready to let go of those tasks that aren't actually going to help you get towards your goal, that aren't going to help you live the life you want to live, that aren't going to help you build the vision you're trying to build. So the thing I say to my clients all the time that I think they're sick of, they probably hate it and they're sick of it, but it's true. I say this to my kids all the time too. We always have choices. So many times we look at our priority lists. We look at what's overwhelming us and we look at our priority lists and we think, but I have to. I don't have a choice. The minute we say I don't have a choice, we've made the choice. We've made the choice of living in the 5-minute moment. We've made the choice that other people's priorities have equal importance, if not more important than our own. There is always an option. Now, this is what I always say. You may not like your options. You may not like any of your options, but there are always options. You may be more worried about your options because you're worried about what people will think of you, who's going to be mad at you, what you might be trading off or giving up in order to make another priority higher on your list. So you may not love your options. You may feel like the trade-off is hard or high. But this is what life is. It's a series of choices, and it is the choices we make that form the life that we're creating, right? That form the life that we live. So if you're thinking the words, I don't have a choice, or I can't, or there's no way, you have locked yourself into a mindset that has already made the decision for you. There's always other options. Like I said, you don't have to like them, but there are always other options. So I know it would have been a lot easier to just say, go meditate for 10 minutes and then go take a yoga class and go for a walk and you'll feel so much better and the overwhelm will just go away. But when it comes to big overwhelm, it's not how it works, right? The walk is great to help release stress for the day. The yoga is great to help release stress for the week. Meditation every day, huge fan of that. Absolutely. But when we're in overwhelm, because there are these big things in front of us, we have to do the dirty work. We have to dig deeper and look at the actual list of what is overwhelming us. It's kind of like when you have to have that serious conversation with somebody, that serious conversation with your partner, with your mother, with your kids, somebody. All the time that we spend in our head worrying about having that conversation. And we spend hours, days, months, years sometimes worrying about a conversation because we're spinning in our head, what are they going to say? How are they going to react? What will they think of me? What will they think of this idea? What's going to happen afterwards, right? We spin up all these stories in our head before we actually have the conversation. That spinning, that's your overwhelm. That's your stress. You are making up the stories, and that is causing your stress. That's why I say the cure for this isn't to go meditate, because honestly, when we meditate, we're still spinning stories in our head. When I go for a run, the stories are still pretty much in my head. The cure is to actually face the stories. I'm stressing out because I need to have this conversation and I'm not doing it. I'm stressing out because I have this deadline done and I haven't worked towards that project at all. I'm stressing out because I have to clean my house and organize my office and do all this other stuff and I haven't done a thing. Okay, make the lists, make the priorities. What's in alignment with how I want to live my life and what's going to matter 5 minutes, 5 months, and in 5 years. And that's where I focus my energy. That's where it has to go. Once you're concrete about the pieces that overwhelm you, you will be amazed at how less overwhelming they are. Just the minute you make them concrete and tactical, they become so much easier to chomp on and get out of the way. They become so much less threatening than the stories we're telling ourselves in our head as we're worrying about them, but not actually looking at them. All right. So I hope that was at least my dog jumping behind me. I hope that was helpful, at least when you think about overwhelm and think about the two different types of overwhelm, right? When you think about the daily overwhelm, which we can take care of through meditation and exercise and anything else, music, right? Anything you do to de-stress, dancing. And then the big boulder overwhelm where we actually do have to break down the tactical pieces to be able to say, here's how I can handle this. Here's how I can get through the next week, months, years, whatever it is, in order to finally conquer these goals and get to that life that I want to lead. So thank you for joining me. That's all I have for Training Tuesday. My last note is if you want to talk more about overwhelm, if you want to talk more about managing your stress, managing your priorities, setting boundaries, as I said earlier tonight, anything that has to do with stepping into leadership, owning your confidence, and really driving yourself forward, CEO of your life or your career, drop the word priority in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll schedule a quick 15-minute chat, and that's all it is. It's 15 minutes. It's a sales-free conversation. I don't sell you anything in the 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes to focus on you and talk about the issue that you're wrestling with, to talk about your overwhelm, to talk about building up confidence, to talk about the new leadership role you've stepped into, to talk about how you want to further your career. Just drop the word priority in the chat. I will contact you probably over DM, and we'll just schedule 15 minutes to help you get one step closer to your goal. That's the 15 minutes is designed for us to get to know each other a little bit, focus on your priorities, and come out with some action step that gets you just a little bit closer to the goal that you want to achieve. So I hope to see you. Drop priority in the chat, or in the chat if you'd like to have a chat, and I will reach out to you. Otherwise, breathe deep. You can manage the overwhelm, but you've got to face the fear and break it down. Have a great night, ladies, and thank you for joining me for Training Tuesday.